I'm Dudley. I work here at Artistic Artifacts, and I am doing the first Facebook Live of 2022. Judy is taking a well-deserved vacation, and I think she's back next week, but I don't know that. So, okay, I was wrong. She won't be back next week. Somebody else gets a turn. But we're going to discuss aprons today. And our thought was easy gifts. We're past Christmas, but easy gifts and Super Bowl Sunday. We can't talk politics. We can't talk religion, so we won't talk football either. But here we go on the quilts. This is a pattern I've been using, by Atkinson Designs. It's a very simple, it's kind of quilt as you go. So I'll be teaching you the quilt as you go technique to make these aprons this morning. We do have some of these here to order online. You're welcome to look. I think we have some in the store too. Alrighty, so the first thing I did with my apron was I tried to, I made the simple one first. I made the one with just one color on the side, so stripes and one color. So if you open this up, the way you do this is to find your back. You find your back, and I just took something off the sale rack because that's the economical way to do that. Found this on the sale rack, so then I went to the front. First thing you do is you cut your piece of backing 24 by 28, and then draw a 10-inch line down the center. You can see the line with my pencil. After you draw your line, you can begin to quilt. I chose, for my front, I picked the Weather Report blue, and I picked, I don't remember the name of the fabric, but this was on Facebook. We were advertising this fabric here as my light. And then I went in my stash and found a blender blue. Alrighty, after that, follow the directions for cutting.
So you flipping and sewing?
I'm going to show you that. Yes, I'm going to flip and sew them. So I have my back. The very first thing is I just attach this one at the top. Then I flipped and sewed. This is a stitches. It's also quilt as you go. So if you're making a quilt instead of an apron, you can put your batting in between and just go that route. So I have my things are all cut 10 inches to go with my 10-inch line. Line it up on the line and sew along the line. And then you flip it. You have to iron every time. I'm not real good about ironing when I sew otherwise, but you iron it open every time. And then you have your basic design down the front. You continue on. And this is very simple. I just picked 3 colors that go well together. Well, 4. I picked the back and then the front. Keep going until your entire thing is sewn together.
Could they be different with strips?
They absolutely could be. Stay tuned. That's next.
Okay.
So they can be different with strips. And then, so these are just going to all be the same all the way down. And then when you're finished sewing these all the way down, I'm going to take my one solid piece. Now this could be something fun. It could be the bicycles we have over here. It could be owls. It could be the animals. It could be anything. Tula. It could be Tula. And you have your Tula apron. Then you sew this down long ways. Sew it this way, and then you flip it open, and you have your quilt.
So you sew it along the 10-inch line?
Sew it along. I lined mine up on the 10-inch line.
Okay.
Right here. Lined up very carefully down the 10-inch line. Make sure you catch all of the ends of your
strips.
Your strips going, and then flip it open.
Cool.
Then that's for this. That's all then you need to do. Now, before you put it into an apron shape, you can do fun things like add thread. All of us have those fancy machines with lots and lots of fun stitches. Use a fun stitch, a different stitch on every line. The only thing I will tell you when you do this method is it will go to the back also, so you would have pink highlights on the back too. Another color could be orange. We lost our orange thread. It rolled to the floor, but that's okay. We can all pretend orange. We can use, and just any color off of here would work. Whatever your choice. I found the orange thread. I love variegated thread too. It does a lot of fun things with, as you put it on as decor, it gets dark and light and just adds an interesting dimension to your sewing and your stitches. Alrighty. So after we get our top done, you come up with this rectangle that again should match. You trim it up so it matches your back. Your back to 24 by 28. Oh, and this sashing, the strips. So then you cut into apron shape. And the way you do that is, I've done that on the next one.
You're finished with this one?
I am. So here again, let's start at the beginning on this one. I did the strips down the side. These are the same strips that we had done. I've already sewed them down. They could be random sizes as Chris suggested. These are all 2.5 per the directions, but you could do them even, and this one's 1 1/4 like the directions, but again, you could use 2.5, 1 1/4, 3, 4, whatever you want, all the way down the side of your apron. And then over here, instead of doing one solid piece, I continued with the Australian fabric. Now all this is, everything here you see is from the store. It's all Australians, different Australians from different years. Some are older, some are newer. This is a newer one, this is a newer one. And I, again, sewed them down the line, flipped them open, did the next one. And you just keep going until you get to the end of your backing. After that, they tell you how to measure to cut out your armhole. I cheated. I had a previous apron that I had just kept the sizing from. And I'm going to keep this. This is going to be my template for aprons for years to come. So just fold it in half so that you have both arms the same dimension, and cut it out. Oh, that way. So this is how I cut it. Cut it right here. You know, if you don't want to follow, they give you very directions, go 3 inches over, 4 inches out, make a smooth curve. And honestly, the important thing is the smooth curve in your apron. After that, it doesn't matter. You can make it lower or higher or whatever works. I'd also be tempted to go find an apron out of the kitchen and just trace it too. So then after you cut your smooth curve, you have raw edges everywhere. You have raw edges all around your apron. You just have front, no batting in this like a quilt, but this is the same method you can do to finish and bind your quilts. And all I did on this edge was do it strictly like I bind all of my quilts. The first thing I do is cut my strip. I prefer 2 1/4. Now everybody binds differently. Everybody has their own method of binding, but my favorite way to bind is to cut binding at 2 1/4 inches. Some people, and you'll read some places to do 2.5. It depends upon how thick your edge is. I like my edge tight also when I flip it over. So I usually go 2 1/4, and even this then you could go to 2 to make your binding tight on the edge of your quilt or apron or whatever you're physically binding. So after that, I then iron my binding in half. I find it makes it easier to flip when you get to that point in the process. So I just very carefully steam iron my binding shut, so it's then 1 1/4. After that, what you do with your binding, we're going to learn how to bind too, because this is a question that comes in the store every single week.
So for the apron, Dudley, do you use bias binding or straight?
They recommend bias because there's a curve part. I usually use straight because I'm cheap with my material. But you can do binding. Bias does look nicer on curves and is a little easier to put into place. But if you use straight, cloth is malleable. You can get it to turn the edge just fine. You know, and press it as you go, and you're fine. So.
And you've used straight, so.
Well, I use definitely straight around this edge. I'm gonna use straight on this too.
Yeah.
But again, bias works a little better. The other thing is if you do fun binding, another fun binding is to use stripes. So if you use stripes, if you want your stripes to go like a barbershop pole, then you can do it on the bias. If you want your stripes to just go straight around, then you need to do it straight on the edge. So look at what you're doing as to how you cut it. Then you can go from there. So after I have my binding cut and folded, I sew it down. I just go to the edge, my 1/4 inch, like you 1/4 inch, or yeah, like you 1/4 inch everything you sew, and sew it down along the edge. And as you can see here, I've done it from here out. Just 1/4 inch. I've sewn it a 1/4 inch from the edge all the way. I left it free so we could talk, but I would sew it all the way to here. Then when you get to the corner of something, I'm going to turn it on you, Chris. So I'm sewing around this way. You sew this way because that's how it goes through your machine. You sew and you sew and you sew, and then you stop a 1/4 inch from the corner. So it's hard to see because I matched my thread. I should have done it in red thread. You stop a 1/4 inch from the corner, and then you take your, over here, stop for a 1/4 inch from the corner. Then you fold it up parallel so it lines up perfectly, and then you fold it back down. So you've stopped right here. You stopped right here at your edge. So you stopped here sewing, so you fold it up this way. You have a perfect triangle. Then you fold it back down again. And then you start again a 1/4 of an inch from the corner, and you keep on going. So now that's what you have here. So I've stopped a 1/4 inch from the end here.
So it gives you a mitered corner.
It's going to give us a mitered corner, and then I started here. So this part is technically loose. Then in the perfect world, you're going to fold it over. You're going to fold over your binding this way, and you're going to sew on top. But when you get to the corner, because you mitered the corner on the back, you finger press it here and turn it. You have a perfectly mitered corner there. Okay. And it just flips into place. I don't know why it works so easily, but it really does. If you finger press that miter, it'll go perfectly. So then I top stitch. Top stitching right on top of the line. I try to go in a little bit so it top stitches front and back, so you're on the green. And then here is your sewn mitered corner. So I've just sewn along here right on top of the green, kept going, shouldn't have matched my thread to have this conversation, and then stopped at the corner, flipped my miter, and kept on going. And for some reason that miter corner works easily every time. You can find that online to do easily, or come in the store. I'm happy to show you how to do it again. Then you have your entire easy part of the apron done as far as binding. Down the top the same way. Just flipped it over, no corners, made it really easy. And then you have your straps and your neck strap. This is all one piece. What I did was, they said to cut it at 2 1/2, and I, believe it or not, followed directions this time. And the way I ironed this to make bias tape was I ironed it in half first, just for ease, personal ease. Then I opened it back up, and I met half in the center. So I had a mark that I could physically fold my material over to. And then I did the center. So then you have bias tape back from my grandmother's days. And then, so I ironed these two, and then I ironed it shut. So now you have your raw edges are all on the inside. You don't have any raw edges. Everything on the outside is a folded in edge. After that, you measure, and the way we're going to put this on the curve is we're going to open this back up and put this to the center of the bias tape. And again, if, like Chris said, if it was cut on the bias, it's a little easier, but this is perfectly fine. Straighten it out, fold it over, pin, lots of pins, pin it down, and then again, if you sew on the top, you're going to hit the bottom. It should match up perfectly. Keep on going all the way through and around. So when I sewed this seam on the last apron, I'll show you. I started here, I sewed here, and then I sewed all the way down, and then when I got to here, I kept on going around the neck, around the neck, around the neck, and then back on this. So it was all one piece of fabric, one seam. And again,
They're loving your color selection.
This was fun. Actually, this is colors of the year. Why not go purple? Somebody else decided for me, and I like purple, and I had purple, and so this is what we did. I also added my neutral strip in here because bright green and red are neutrals, and you have to have a neutral in everything. Sarcasm intended. So that's what that will look like when we're finished. Have I missed anything?
Nope.
Nope. Okay, so again, I would embellish with green thread, fancy stitches, purple kind of hides, but you could do that. It also would show through to the back again. If you do your zigzag, it's going to go through both sides. People here love to embellish with hand dyes, laces. Chris has showed me the ribbons that match. Oh, here's some. Aha. So we could put our fancy ribbons on this quilt. They would go on this apron just fine. These are Tula, Curiouser and Curiouser, correct? Yes.
Perfect colors for
Perfect.
the.
Yeah, exactly. It worked out perfectly. I could put, and actually this is thick enough. I think you could use even as a strip. I might put it on top of something just because I think I would. But you could put a muslin strip and then put your ribbon right on top of it, or put your on top of the purple, the solid purple. That would look good too. So lace, buttons, anything you want, you can embrace. These are aprons. I would think they'd be utilitarian, but again, they make you look good while you're cooking. So, alrighty, are we good? I'll show you what we're gonna do with these in a minute. So then, voila, you're finished. And I threw the thread to the floor here. This, I would embellish in, this is just a finished one. Again, Christmas, easy Christmas gifts, tired of pillowcases, tired of whatever else you make quickly for Christmas, this would work. This is Christmas fabric. Some of this was Judy's, some of this was right out of my stash. And if you do red thread, you can do your red stitches. This, in hindsight, you might want to quilt down a little bit, meander through, do some grids, do something on it to keep it together. But you don't have to either. It would be fine.
Heather, this is not currently a kit. We just have, we're picking our favorite fabrics. Dudley picks some of the fabrics from the store and some from her stash, which often is from the store. So
Mostly from the store. I think we're at 90% from the store. Again, I think this one may be gone, but any Christmas fabric would work. And I know we were talking kits. I don't know whether what will come of this or not. It's not me. Okay, so on the back, this you can see the white threads, but if you did red or pink or yellow or whatever on the front, you really could see it on the back, and you'd have a nicely decorated quilt, apron from the back. I don't know why you need it nicely from the back.
So this one you just chose a plain muslin solid because it was your first try on this one. Yes.
This is what I was going to do initially, and then I was home Monday in the snow, like the rest of Northern Virginia, and it's what I had. So there's this. And then the pattern also includes pot holders, and you can do pot holders with anything you want, but just take your scraps. You can put together, a pot holder. You can make a round pot holder or an oval pot holder. I don't think I have the other two pieces, but you could, this has a square, and we do sell the Insul Bright fleece that you could put in the middle of your pot holder so you don't burn your hands. We also have some oven mitt material that you can use, or oven mitt inners that you could make your oven mitts match your aprons.
You could also use this as a pocket maybe on the front of your apron.
They do have pockets on the front of the apron. I did so nicely on the stripes. I didn't see the need to cover them up with another stripe.
No.
But that's one thing. You could also put your stripe on the solid side. So if you would need an apron or a pocket on this side, you could do it this way. Actually, that's a good idea, Chris. You could do your pockets this way. You'd have pockets on your apron. Alrighty, and I've probably spoken too quick. Are we good? Do we need anything else? I know that they're having a common sold sale on the 20th and next week, and it's going to be Tula. Is that
correct?
Correct.
So there is a question.
Sure.
Why don't you use any interfacing between the fabrics for the apron?
Because they didn't say to, and I didn't feel the need. But yes, if you want interfacing, you want it a little thicker, you could put any sort of interfacing in there you wish. If you want it stiffer, if you just want it looser, again, you'd have to draw your line down the interfacing rather than down the backing material. The other thing to remember is to make your backing material face down when you start to sew, or you have your inside looking pretty and not your outside. Batting you could put in there, that just makes it heavier. But again, if you want it heavier, that's absolutely fine.
J.M. Ritchie, this is not a kit. We have the pattern. And the pattern is think Sharon's put the link up, but the pattern is $10. And what it says on the pattern is how much fabric you need.
I found this a little hard. I bought yards because you need length. You need more than a half yard to get your length of dinosaurs, because the dinosaur, this is where you have to look at what's printed on the material when you physically buy it. Because the dinosaurs come off the bolt this way. The dinosaurs have their tails to me when I'm unrolling the bolt. The selvage is the tail. The selvage is here. So you need 28 inches, so it's 3/4 of a yard to do that. Now you can probably get 3 across. When you can make 3 aprons out of 1 yard. And then these, like I said, this was a half yard. This was a half yard. A little more if you're doing it on bias. You probably need a yard if you're going to do it on bias. And the backing was 3/4 of a yard too.
So somebody could use our 2-yard surprise packs and put together a great striped one like your Australian one, where you use stripes on the solid instead of a solid side.
Exactly. You could absolutely. Actually, your 2-yard, yes. That would be very
Because
nice.
those are the width of the fabric, so they would be able to cut their strips long enough for...
Well, the strips in this, I did cut selvage like you traditionally think of cutting. My selvages were here and I cut them this way. This is 28. I needed 28 this way and 10, so I cut 28 and 10 to get 38, which is a 2.5-inch strip.
So those 2 yards,
So those 2 yards
they
would
would be
be
great.
perfect.
Yes, yes.
And that might be an idea for kids. We might do that with some of the Christmas ideas too.
So I think she wants to see the finished apron.
Yes, ma'am.
If you could just put it up like...
I got it too tight. It's tight for the mannequin. It's not tight for Dudley.
No, we will not be selling the purple apron, but we will sell you the fabrics to make the purple apron. I think Dudley's probably going to use that as a gift or in her own kitchen.
Oh, I have to go in my kitchen? Oh.
Or maybe your husband or Zach would use.
Okay, comments hold. Anything else that I'm supposed to tell?
Okay, so next week, our Facebook Live is going to be with Jean Ann Wright. And Jean Ann has designed, she was with us a year ago, she designed a new ruler for creative grids. It's called the Skinny Pineapple Trim Tool. And she has some great samples of her using the tool. We've actually posted them on our our Facebook page, and she's made 2 table runners using our batiks that she bought when she was in December. And this is Chris talking, and actually I haven't been playing with her tools. She gave me an early release copy of it, and I've got some samples of things I'm making. So Jean Ann will be with me next week for our Facebook Live. And then, as Dudley said, we will have a Facebook Live sale. It's with comments sold. We're going to have Tula Pink fabrics. We're going to have some bundles. We've got some fun samples to show. We've got some of her tools that we've got that we carry, her bags. So, and we're real excited that we have been approved for an app. So we now have a comment sold app that you can go to the App Store on your iPhone and download the Artistic Artifacts comment sold app. You can see previous live sales. You can actually watch the live sale from there instead of Facebook. So we're real excited and to have those happening. One question: who makes the ribbons? And we have those in stock. They're Renaissance, right?
It says Renaissance ribbon, exclusive woven, and we have different ones. We have some cape ones and some Tula ones and just some basic ones back with our ribbons. And you can put all the other nifty ribbons back there too if you're interested.
You could actually add some of the Indian trims. That would be fun too. I mean, there's just lots of ideas you could use.
You could use the Indian fabric too.
Yeah, and Jen suggested earlier it'd also be a fun one if you've got jelly roll strips. left over from another project, or you have some jelly rolls that you'd really like to invest in, you could use those.
And I meant I was going to bring the Tula jelly
Well,
rolls over because it would be fun. These
We can
would be
walk
fun,
over
but-
that way. We got a couple minutes.
Okay, so we could use different jelly rolls. Here's a Tula jelly roll. Yes, a Tula jelly roll. And then these are the smaller prints of Tula. So we're happy to, I like to use different size prints. That is what makes your quilt more interesting. So if you use the little Tula, and then go over here, sorry, back to the camera, was wrong. You get some of your bigger prints. Where's Alice? So teacups are smaller prints, so you could use the real small prints, the teacups, and then the roses, or Alice. And they're all different sizes, which then would make your your apron very interesting. You could put Alice down one side and these little strips this way across it.
Ooh, fun.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Well, I like the teacups.
The teacups are more kitchen appropriate, but again, we could do this. Pick your strips. There's enough strips in here, so you could use one jelly roll for 3 or 4 different quilts.
Or like your Australian one, use the jelly rolls on the
up and down and sideways.
Yes.
Do that, and then you just find a different material that contrast, like this, to use as your
binding.
Your binding and your neck. I was trying to figure out what you call around your neck, but so that's one thing you could do with Tula. You could do this again with Australians. We have Australians in rolls. We have batiks in rolls. We have lots of just solids in rolls, but that's fun. Find a solid one you like, and you can do your strips every which way, and then you can embellish them. Do your fancy stitches, and they would show.
All right. Any more questions? We've actually got one of our first live classes going this morning, so we've got people starting to come in for our serger test drive. So I think we'll sign off now, and we'll see you again next week.
Bye.